ABC Women would like to thank BIPOC Executive Search for sponsoring today's episode.
The BIPOC Executive Search app is here for you. Get information about job opportunities we're recruiting for. Keep up to date and in the know about career news tailored to Indigenous, Black, and other racialized audiences. Gain helpful tips and learnings to help you on your career trajectory, celebrate job appointments, and more. The BIPOC Executive Search app, here to elevate the candidate experience for Black, Indigenous, and communities of color. Free to download and available on iPhone and Android smartphones.
Look how far you have come on your own, but never alone. Through the rain and through the shine, here's your moment, it's your time. You stood tall and now you see, standing in your destiny. 100 woman growing strong. 100 woman where you belong. You stood tall and now you see, you have reached your destiny, woman.
100 ABC Women would like to take this opportunity to welcome our viewers and listening audience, families, friends, and our sponsors to our inspirational conversations, fireside chats with 100 ABC honorees. 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women is a bold initiative created by the co-authors, the Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine, a former MP, Donna Jones-Simmons, a corporate diversity executive, and Dr. Denise O'Neill-Green, Vice President, Equity and Community Inclusion at Ryerson University. Our mission is to celebrate and archive the professional accomplishments of trailblazing Black women from all across Canada. The goal is to create an ever-expanding database available for current and future generations via print media, public and private libraries, as well as a website, which is www.100abcwomen.ca. We are pleased to bring you a series of fireside chats which include conversations around education, healthcare, entertainment, creative arts, legal, technology, entrepreneurship, diversity and equity, media, engineering, politics, sports, and so much more. These, we know, are topics that matter to us and to you. These educational and inspirational conversations will be made available to all current and future generations via our 100 ABC YouTube channel. This is a great way to learn from our elders, brilliant-minded and accomplished Black Canadian women.
So join me as I welcome Charmaine Headley, co-founding artistic director of COBA, collective of Black artists and a champion of Africanist dance. Without further ado, Charmaine Headley.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to our Fireside Chat, 100 ABC Women. I'm your moderator. As Donna said, I'm Charmaine Headley. And we have three beautiful women on the panel this afternoon as well. And they're all artists in different disciplines. So we will learn about them. And it's more of a conversation. So I will start with Yvonne Francis. And welcome, Yvonne. How are you?
Thank you, Charmaine, for such a lovely acknowledgement. I'm doing well, thank you. And I see that you're doing extremely well as well. um, Now, I'd like to begin by asking you, I like to get engaged in some conversation. What is your role of the arts in society today, and what is your position that you are claiming?
Thank you. In terms of overarching position, I use the arts. My background is dance, but I use the arts to first speak about our social positioning, which is very important, dealing with injustices, anti-black racism, etc., etc. But I would say my overall position would be healing and healing aspects through the arts, because even if we're thinking and discussing injustices within the system that is in place at this point. So we're hoping as we continue, there will be shifts and we continue to work towards these shifts. But regardless of all the work that we put in, it has to, and I do believe that it really speaks to us healing as a people, as a community, right? So I that's most of my work go into the healing aspects of the arts. I run workshops in terms of working with people with mental challenges. I run workshops within the corporate sector dealing, so whether it's movement based, but it's always in terms of engaging conversation, and thinking about how the work that we do as artists is not only from an entertainment perspective, right? So we continue, and I believe we can all agree with that, right?
Yes.
And so the position of the arts in society, we would like to start shifting those at the quote unquote head, federal government, etc., in terms of seeing and viewing the arts from a different lens. So that's where I am. But thank you for asking.
Thank you, Charmaine. We're so honored to have you here today as our moderator. I'm truly am honored to have be in your presence.
I
Speaking
appreciate
of
that. I appreciate
speaking of what we have done in our community and bringing everything together, yes, that is great how we are taking the next step, which we is always been there, but we are now conscious and taking larger steps, leaps and bounds to get to where it's now affecting us and our children and the next generation and succession. So that is great stuff. Great
Yeah,
stuff.
so it's when you say affecting, like I like that word, but in terms of affecting change, because
Yes.
that
Yeah.
basically is what we need, right? So then our children and our children's children are not, as we say in Trinidad, spinning top in mud, where we can just keep doing this over and over
Yeah.
and over again. Yeah, it's time to shift. But let me tell you a little bit about Yvonne. So all these ladies have lengthy bios, right? So I'm just gonna capture just a few moments in your life. It does not represent any of you holistically. So please, it's just because of time that, so I'm just pulling
Of
out
course.
some. Okay, so Yvonne Francis, as she describes herself as an independent freelance musician. And I would say, like, I've started coining this word, an omnidiscipline artist. People say multi-talented, multi-discipline, but when I know people who cross divides and start linking the different disciplines within their practices, so I start using the omni discipline work. But I know Yvonne as a musician. I know her as a flautist, actually a saxophonist, um, percussionist as well. And I know she expresses herself through dance. She may say not, but I know she expresses herself through through dance. And her passion um, is our children. Her passion is our children. And I'm saying this, that's not in her bio. That's not in her bio.
Yeah.
But this is what I've seen throughout the years that I've been here, that our children is your passion, Yvonne. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, and why, and do you agree with me in terms of that being your passion?
Absolutely.
Mm,
That's my whole being, my whole, that's what pushes me and drives me.
mm,
The success of our children,
mm-hmm,
all children, to
mm-hmm,
be able to nurture, heal them, educate them,
mm-hmm,
give them all the devices and that so that they can succeed no
mm-hmm,
matter what it takes.
mm-hmm,
So I know that I've put myself out there to the young people. If you need anything, call me. So of course I'm getting calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning. It's all good because we are there. Somebody has to be there. And
mm-hmm,
I know that any one of us will reach
mm-hmm,
out and accept calls from our children at any time. Being able to nurture them, teach them, steer them in different directions
mm-hmm,
is definitely our passion, because when we were growing up, we weren't given the vast knowledge of how the arts are connected and and what it can do for you. There's so many avenues we can go into being an artist, but our children don't know all the avenues, just like any other profession. When you go into sciences, there's so many things you can do scientifically and mathematically.
mm-hmm,
My major is music, my minor is math, and I work in pharmaceutical.
mm-hmm,
So my passion definitely is the music and
mm-hmm,
the arts, and most of all, our children, to make
mm-hmm,
sure that they have what it takes. Now, I'm hoping and praying and putting out there to the universe spiritually that we do own our own schools and own our own theaters, our
Yes.
own buildings to house all of us. All
mm-hmm,
of us, all our children. I am so proud looking out there now and seeing our children out there getting their own or continuing what the parents have put in place for
mm-hmm,
the arts,
mm-hmm,
with Koba, Ballet, Creole, Goma, the freelance artist, bringing in Matati and what he has to do, like the arts, the steel bands, like what it is out there where they can go and what they are doing. I'm so impressed and I'm loving it. This
mm-hmm.
pandemic has brought all kinds of things where before I couldn't go to 2 or 3 events in one night. Now I can. So I can link into the different things and support the children and support the community.
Yeah.
Um, Going back to what I would like to do musically, because right now I'm sitting back and allowing the children and to work.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be an advisor, somebody, well, don't want to be, I am an advisor. So
Mm-hmm.
when they call and they're asking things, or if I don't know, I will push them towards somebody, put it out there, go and ask so and so, or I will seek out the information that they need. Education is gold.
Mm-hmm.
Working with your spirit and getting your art, no matter what it is,
Mm-hmm.
out, no matter what instrument you're using, your voice, your body is the instrument. It's what we work towards and engage the children with, from the smallest ones, from 1 year old, from birth, they're hearing music, they're feeling, we're doing things with our children, and to the 60-year-olds, which are now still learning because we're learning from them.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to take a step back and let them continue to grow and
Mm-hmm.
to find themselves, live within themselves, and don't be afraid to just go out there.
Yes. Thank you. Agreed. And you kind of went in and out. Um, sorry. you went in and out in terms of what my next question would be, in terms of your position and where you see the arts in society. So I think you were in and out with that as part of even your first answer. But if any of the other panelists, if you have a question for Yvonne, just let me know. But I would say that in terms of, so you mentioned Goma, and do you want to, if you can tell us a little bit about Goma and what for our audience in terms of what they do, but also as the next generation coming up. And I mean, there are a number of levels of generations because as I am in it, I know the different age groups. But and have you had any conversations with them, and what are they saying? What is pushing them to be part of Goma at this time?
At this time, well, Goma is now, it started from Usafiri kids. So it was family oriented as usual. And so now the children from Usafiri, then the parents started Goma. So then that family engaged with other families and the children and started the first generation of Goma, which then took housed children that were interested in art, that were shy, that didn't know where to go, an outlet spiritually as well as education wise, and just seeing how children working with children is a lot of fun. When children see other children directing, engaging, doing stuff, they want to be a part of it as well. And of course, parents want them to be a part of it. So the first generation of Goma was, we taught them music, we taught them not just the instrument of drumming, but music. We also brought in artists from all over because I'm a trained saxophone player. I'm not a trained drummer. I'm not a master drummer. I know music. So I bring in the artists from the different idioms and the different genres to be able to teach these children. Right now, what motivates these children is because they can't get together. They want to practice. They want to rehearse. They're tired of this virtual thing. They want to be able to be together and create together, which I simply love. That absence makes the heart grow fonder. Absolutely. So what's driving them now, because I want to take a step back from the Goma, is that they're pushing themselves forward and want to continue it. I'm so happy about that. And I'm so impressed that they're taking this role on. We have a lot of females now that are taking the leadership role as drummers and dancers. I mean, we've always had it, but now the females are now taking the forefront on this. I'm very proud of them, and they're engaging other females who would not normally come out and do this as a drummer. We see a lot of females in dance. We see a lot of males in dance, but not the combination of a strong drummer and dancer in our society. Of course, you will find that on the continent, but right here in Toronto, in our little quiche, these young adults of different talents and different levels of music are coming together to create with the assistance of the choreographers and musicians. So
thank you, beautiful. And I'm just going to go to Wendy now, but you really touched on something in terms of the position we are facing now through COVID, right? And yes, it has changed our reality because we can't get together, but it has also opened up different potentials of possibilities. And I don't say that glibly. I honestly believe that this pause that we were put on was necessary. It was necessary for us personally, spiritually, but it was also politically, in terms of seeing things, even that we as people of African descent, we speak about daily, but the rest of the world somehow has no clue on what we're speaking about.
Mm-hmm.
But because of that pause, everyone was able to witness as well, you know. Um, so it's interesting that because of COVID, now you see, as you said, you see that the youth is stepping up. They want to do this now. They see the importance. Before it was their parents saying, well, you have rehearsals, you have this, and there may be some resistance, right? But but now they're making sure, yeah, oh, I need to get together. So that's a positive. That's a positive. So Wendy, hi Wendy. How
Hi, Charmaine. Hi,
how are you doing?
Yvonne. I'm great. I am great. Blessed and
Beautiful,
highly favored.
beautiful, beautiful. Um, so I know Wendy from Pan Fantasy, and like the rest of the panelists, I'm sure that there are other aspects of your life, as I said, that, but we're looking from the artistic perspective at this point. Um, Again, Wendy is also a person that has deep roots within the community, and through Pan Fantasy. Yeah, I will ask you first to tell us a little bit about Pan Fantasy. Uh, I don't know. I assume everyone knows about Pan, but I shouldn't make these assumptions. So just tell us a little bit about Pan and Pan Fantasy.
Pan Fantasy Steel Band, my
Mm-hmm.
heart's desire. First, I have to say that, because we got to ease up the tension. But I want to say for me, Pan Fantasy Steel Band is a band that started 34 years ago.
Wow.
And the band is under the organization, the North York Intercommunity Youth Group.
Mm.
And when we say the youth group, we are the umbrella. So Pan Fantasy falls under it, where we
Mm-hmm.
have other organizations that we started when we started the organization up in Jane and Finch.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up in Jane and Finch, and of course, I have to go all the way back. As Yvonne just mentioned, it was about other groups that started other groups,
Mm-hmm.
and then we fell into those groups. So
Mm-hmm.
we were like, I want to put it like this. This morning, I had a terminology. We all started on this 100-yard dash when we run, the relays. And
Mm-hmm.
then we're all stepping back now to look at the organizations we're a part of, and we're in the 400.
Mm.
We're all doing the 400 now. So I
Mm-hmm.
like that terminology. I want to keep that in the back of my head.
Mm.
But Pan Fantasy Steel Band um, was put together by a group of young people that saw an urgent need to foster youth leadership skills in the
Mm-hmm.
Jane and Finch area. And
Mm.
when we did that, we were already a part of another band, and also coming out of the school system where we learned to play steel pan. Now,
Mm.
I learned under the auspices of Mr. Earl Appear Sr.
Mm.
And Earl started a program at Westview Centennial Secondary School, which was a accredited music program at the time.
Okay.
Now, when I walked into that portable, I will never forget that day, and I saw all these people playing pan. I was like, hey, I want to learn to do that.
Mm.
And you see young people doing something that you could do, you want to do it too. And I
Mhm.
think that is how we all started.
Mm.
I did not have the opportunity to play pan in Trinidad.
Mm.
Coming here at a young age, never thought in my mind or wildest dreams that I would have been playing pan all these years.
Yeah.
My brothers played pan in Trinidad. So when I went home and I said to my mom, I want to play pan, she looked at me, she says, no, oh, no, you can't be playing pan. And I said, but mom, it's in the school. It's an accredited program.
Yeah.
And I was taking home a cello, a big cello. I had to carry this thing home and I didn't like it. I wanted to play the flute. And there was no more flutes left when I decided to sign up for the music program. And I'm telling you all this because this is how it got us to Pan Fantasy.
Mm.
We stayed with the school music program for the years. And then we graduated over to the summer program down in Afropan. And that's a summer program that's running, that's Caravana time. So everybody's pumped on this new thing that we are leaving our school program to go downtown to play for Caravana. So we spent a good 2 months playing pan. Then you come back to the school program. But after school was finished, when we all graduated, where are we going? We ended up back into the community program, which was Afro-Pan. But then we thought to ourselves, wait a second, we're only playing pan in the summer. And we approached Earl and we said to him something like, hey, this should be a year-round program, because there's all of us as young people, we want to be involved. We want to keep this thing going. And we saw that there was an interest with a lot of young people, and when you look at your kids, you're saying, well, what do we do with our kids in the summer? But what do we do in the winter also? We're not playing soccer. We're playing steel pan. So this is how Pan Fantasy started, because we thought to ourselves, no, we got to have a year-round program. And that is how we started the group. A group of us came together and formed the band under North York Intercommunity Youth Group. We went to the city and we said, hey, we need pans and we needed a space. So the band started there. It is now 34 years we have been functioning and still in the North York area. God be the glory. And we're just giving thanks because over I'm going to say almost 1,000 kids have gone through our program, either through music. We had fashion shows. We had basketball tournaments. We've done everything that and locos, of course, fun part, the summers. But I'm saying this in a jovial moment, because you see, when you look back at where you were and where you've come from, that's the history that we're talking about. And we engaged all these young people, and they're still a part of Pan Fantasy Steel Band. So it's one of the #1 bands in Toronto, and we function right through the year. We take a little 2 weeks break or a month for the most, and we come back in. We perform almost every weekend in the summer, but it's a band where we now have third generations happening. So we're happy about that.
Yes, that's right, Mosa. Thank you.
Yes.
I have another question, and I'm looking at the time, but I do, because you mentioned the was it the cello that you had?
Yes.
Right. And so I find that this is, and I would like you just to give a short give your perspective in terms of what I would call more so like a cultural disconnection, in terms of some of our experiences coming up in the school system, and so when you mentioned your mom saying, well, no, not the steel pan, and so that lens that is being used to what defines what music, acceptable music, you know what I'm saying? So I would just
Yes.
like you to just
Yes.
share a
Yes.
little bit about that.
I think back then we weren't culturally sensitive. And for me, coming from Trinidad at an early age and not having the right leadership or mentors to look at, even in the school system, educating us in the ways of, say, music, building community. You're not in that format. How? So for me, the only culturally sensitive things I had was at church. My mentors are at church, so I'm dealing with that. But when you look at the community side of it, we didn't see that in school. And there was nobody pushing us to that level to say, hey, that cello is really a good instrument to play, but I'm not saying don't tell yourself that you can't play it. You can play it. So for me, it was like, oh, why would you play that instrument? And nobody there saying, yeah, that's a great instrument. And you know what? You can blend that instrument with steel pan. Eventually, I learned all of that down the road, because now that's what the band is doing. We bring in all types of instruments to be a part of collaborations that we do with music. And I think that is a part of it, like you just said, it's not a brainwash, but it's a sense of taking away a little bit of entitlement that we got. I don't want to take that away from you, your barriers that prevented us from doing certain things. So I take down, even for me now, I try to remove a lot of those barriers from young people. I tell them, no, you strive for excellence all the time. Everything you do, you are #1. right? In your
Mm-hmm.
heart, always strive for excellence. And
Mm-hmm.
when you see that, you see the fruitfulness of
Mm-hmm.
what our lives could be.
Yeah.
Because of that, it stopped me from learning music to a different level. Like Yvonne said, sax was her number one thing. When I met Yvonne, she was playing sax, and I was like, wow, she's good at this. But she was
Mm-hmm.
also playing pan,
Mm-hmm.
and she can arrange because
Mm-hmm.
what she had those musical skills, where
Mm-hmm.
some of us weren't given that because we weren't attracted to the eyes of the instruments.
Mm. Yeah.
Mom was not attracted to that because it was
Yeah.
a kind of women weren't involved in that because it was a bad
Mm.
thing in
Mm-hmm.
Trinidad. You had to have
Mm.
solid ground, and we're
Yeah.
women. We're coming from a different level. So
Yeah.
I think that is the season now that we're trying to change, and we have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank
Now,
you. Thank
women make up 80% of the steel bands that we are in Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
and leading bands like me.
Mm-hmm.
So I take my hats off to myself for being humble
Mm-hmm.
and moving forward. And I'm also doing the same thing to uplift other women.
Yes.
Yeah,
Bravo. Bravo.
always.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so we do have to shift to Mosa McNeely. But I would say, it would be great to continue that conversation, especially about that lens that is being used, and even the impact that can have on our children
Oh,
and
yeah.
generations to come, right? But that's a larger conversation.
Well,
So,
I'd just like to jump in actually on that topic and just,
mhm,
because I think that um, I'd like to make visible that our generation has laid a foundation
mm,
that is allowing now for the next generation to have more freedom to
mhm,
engage in Black arts and
mhm,
this whole, in this post George Floyd moment.
mhm,
It has opened up that global awareness about anti Black racism. So now the
Mhm.
work that we've been doing all these decades, these
mhm,
years, and those before us
mhm, mhm,
is it's being taken up in a new way.
mhm,
And so there's this new and that younger generation that, like how Yvonne
Mhm.
was saying, they are powerful, and
mhm,
and so they're not having the same barriers that we have. They still feel like it's not enough, and so they have to keep
Yep.
pushing that
Yep.
youthful zeal. But I would like to acknowledge all of you and all of us that there is a foundational role that we've played in this city that I think, needs to be acknowledged.
mhm. Thank you, Mosa.
Thank you,
And
most.
I do agree with you. I would still say though that we do, because I know that our children still have to push
Yeah.
Mhm.
against those barriers,
Mhm.
right? And so there's still a lot of work.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
we've laid the foundation, but it's not as fortified as it should be.
Yep.
No, no.
Yeah. So, but yes, I do agree with you.
We
So most of
say,
all,
oh,
sorry, go
sorry.
ahead.
I just want to say we can say white supremacy, we can say colonialism, we can say heteropatriarchy without the same pushback.
Mhm.
Now, white society, I mean, yes, there is, of course, still pushback, but I mean, the fact that that language has evolved to become
Mm-hmm.
more sort
Yeah,
of,
it's more in the open.
mainstream. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Hmm.
that's a sign of evolution as well.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed. So
Perfect.
that's a quick intro as well. Mosa is another omnidiscipline artist, in terms of, through visual, like crossing, many disciplines. Visual arts, I know her to have a voice as well. So, and in terms of her percussion, and as well as dance, and academia as well. So, I love that word omnidiscipline. I don't know why I'm holding on to it, but
Yeah, girl,
anyway,
you better trademark
omnidiscipline.
that quick.
Say
Sounds
that
good.
again.
I said you better trademark that quick.
Yeah, omnidiscipline artist. So yes, Mosa, and thank you for coming in and bringing your perspective on what Wendy was saying. So you have Dawa Collective. Can you tell us what Dawa is, and what it stands for, and just tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. The Dawa Collective was formed in 1986
Mm-hmm.
by Grace Channer and Buseje Bailey, two visual artists. It stands for Diasporic African Women Artists.
Okay.
And, they formed it in a time where the idea of creating space for Black women artists to produce work, to exhibit exclusively, it was really not on the radar. And they felt this need to create space for Black artists to come together, to support each other in a sort of a collegial way, to critique each other's work, to be together, to drum together. And so they produced exhibitions, and I was one of the artists involved in one of the exhibitions that Dawa produced in 1989 called Black Women, When and Where We Enter. And this has turned out now to be a historical exhibition because it was the first in Canadian history to be produced, curated, and feature exclusively the work of Black women artists. So it toured across Canada and started in A Space in Toronto and went to 5 locations. And so fast forward to 2019, an advisory committee for a network called Black Women Artists put on an event at the AGO called The Feast. And it was an event that featured 100 Black women artists having a feast in the middle of the Art Gallery of Ontario.
Okay.
So these are younger artists, women, new generation and emerging artists. So they wanted to mark the event by acknowledging something that had happened historically by Black women artists. So they searched and found out about Dawa and about this exhibition, and it turned out it was the 30th anniversary of the Black Women When and Where We Enter exhibition. So they reached out to Grace and Buseje, and they invited us, the artists who were involved, to attend the event and be acknowledged. So after that, 2 of us, myself and Zian, who was one of the artists, she's based in Montreal, we felt so inspired to regroup the collective and put on an exhibition to commemorate this historical exhibition. So we've been now working for 2 years, since 2019, with the regrouped collective. We've succeeded in raising some funds from the Ontario Arts Council, the Toronto Arts Council. We have a wonderful curator, Andrea Fatona, who's a professor at OCAD-U. And we've reached out to all 11 of the original artists, 10 of whom are going to be involved in our exhibition project that will open next November 2022, opening again at A Space. So it's a beautiful kind of full circle.
That's cyclical.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And so what are you doing? So you're part of the Dawa Collective. So outside of that, tell us, what are you doing now?
Well, I'm very involved as the project coordinator for that project. But I'm also an artist who's going to be exhibiting in the project.
Oh, okay.
So the curator gave me a little nudge a couple months ago and said, Mosa, I see you're working really hard as the coordinator, but I need to know what you're making for the show. So that was a great incentive for me to, circle back to the work that I started in my graduate studies at York University. So I'm developing an installation work that is about mourning and memorializing the Middle Passage.
Okay.
So that has been a theme I've been working with for the last, 5 to 7 years. And it's a very difficult theme to work with. It's very difficult historical traumatic memory for African people of African descent. So I did pull away from it for a few years, and I understand now why I was feeling anxious about not keeping it going. But now that I've returned to it, I understand that I needed to step away for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
It really
Mm-hmm.
turns up. It's a mourning process that, as the artist, I go through in the
Mm-hmm.
creation of the work. So
Mm-hmm.
this
Yeah.
time, I'm a little more aware of how to create sort of a support for myself in
Mm-hmm.
doing that mourning work.
Mm-hmm.
So I work with encaustic mixed media assemblage. It's an art form that is an ancient Egyptian art form.
Mm-hmm.
Encaustic, the Greeks claim it, but come on, we know the truth.
They do?
They do. You any history book
What?
or you look at it says it was invented by the Greeks, and they say they taught it to the Egyptians.
Oh my
Mm-hmm.
goodness.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I'm working with the optic for me is a path of bones on the ocean floor.
Mm-hmm.
So I've created objects that are stones that I've treated with the medium so they look like they're underwater. I'm working
Mm-hmm.
with installation
Mm-hmm.
and sound, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a performative element as well,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are
changing,
you
placing.
are you sorry, you just
Go.
painting pictures for me. Are you using also like technology so it allows for that underwater texture?
Absolutely. I am.
Okay.
I'm working with digital projections,
Mm, mm-hmm,
underwater footage, and I really want to create an experience for the viewer
mm,
when they come into the space that they feel that they're underwater
mm-hmm.
and they're walking on the ocean floor.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking too about how to position it because I want it to be cathartic for Black people.
Mm,
And I know that people who don't identify as Black, people who are not part of this history, are
mm-hmm,
also going to partake. But I'm just in the creation of it. I really would like for people of African descent to have an experience that they can come and have a moment to mourn.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I'm gonna pinpoint two things that I heard you say. I know we're running out of time, but I'm asking the presenters to just give us a little bit more time. So the verbs you used were experience and partake,
Mhm.
right? So the people of so I use, this is just my politics. I use people of African descent. I don't. I seldom use the word black, but that's my politics. So people of African descent experience this, and people of other ethnicities, they will partake of it. Can you tell me, are you aware that you're using this language?
Yes, absolutely, because I've
Okay.
been thinking about it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, there's currently because of COVID, if there are exhibitions and they are allowing the public in, they let them in one by one
Mm,
Mhm.
to
mm-hmm.
experience something. So there's a Black woman artist here who is exhibiting here in Hamilton, Esma Mohamud, or I hope I'm pronouncing her last name.
Mm.
And so you can go in one by one to experience her exhibition. And the people who were on a panel speaking with her recently expressed how different it was for them to experience the work without feeling like they're being surveilled
Mm,
by a white gaze while they're
mm-hmm.
experiencing this work that is really by and for people of African descent.
Mm, mm-hmm.
So yes, partake and experience.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. You're purposely using that language.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I think it's important. You know, we live in a society that if we aren't specific, it kind of gets smears over, and it has been smeared for so many years now. Um,
Right.
I think we need to be very detailed and very purposeful. So
Absolutely.
there's no question,
Hmm.
because interpretation is so easily
Assured.
scared, or people come in with different interpretations. So when you say, no, I said experience, yes, no, yes, and partake, yes, I
Hmm.
purposely said that. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? So I think it's important that the same way you spoke about us laying that foundation,
Mhm.
even in terms of our language,
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
know that we lay the road, we lay the bricks, so you understand clearly, especially post George Floyd,
Yeah.
so
That's true.
I am really, I do apologize because I
Don't
think we
apologize.
are now getting, I think we are now getting to the meat.
No.
You know what I'm saying? I think we're now
Yeah.
getting to the meat where
Yeah.
we can have a conversation. So I'm apologizing for the, length of time that we were
Time.
given.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
that's why I'm apologizing.
Okay, good. You ever find yourself saying that when you're having those type of conversations that you all of a sudden, you're wondering like, should I say this? Is it gonna make sense? Are people gonna mistake me they're gonna
Misunderstood
take it in
me.
the wrong way?
Yeah.
The natural instinct of us to say certain things like I've been saying, anti-systemic, and when I say it in certain places and certain conversations, people are looking at you like, is this about race?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of it is. Yeah.
You know?
99% of the time, it's about.
Yes, yeah, that's what I mean. So it has to come naturally now for us to be consistently saying the things that
Mm-hmm.
are words that are just being spoken because we're
Mm-hmm.
speaking it now into the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. It's hard. I'm struggling with that. I have people who are saying to me, I'm struggling with the right words to say. How can I say this? And when I say white people or black people, which one should I say? African Canadians or African Americans? Which one am I supposed to say?
Mm-hmm.
We're going through that struggle right now still. I'm having that in school. I'm hearing kids say it. I'm hearing teachers say it also. So
Mm-hmm.
just trying to equip themselves with the right wording. If I
Mm-hmm.
look at Yvonne, I'm gonna say my black sister or my African American sister or my African Canadian sister.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She's
Mm-hmm.
my sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Um,
hard.
I'd love to say something about Blackness and people of African descent, like how we choose to use these terms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I embrace both, and I feel that using the term Black, I do want to use that one as well because I understand it as part of a history from the civil rights movement,
Mm-hmm.
Black Power movement. So that's part of the diasporic African
Mm-hmm.
history of liberation struggle that I embrace. And being born in North America, I feel, really connected to. So,
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time, I
Mm-hmm.
do also really educate our young people about claiming that term of saying, I'm a person of African descent,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
because we have to make that connection to the continent.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that's really important as well. So I just wanted to add
Yeah.
that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I
And
just want to
Yvonne,
add
thank you.
from the youth perspective, because I'm hearing it all the time from
Yeah.
them, their relationship or how they link to Black or African American, whatever. They're coming straight out and saying, I'm Canadian.
Yeah.
So they understand being Black, their presence of being Black. Nobody has to tell them that. It's the way they're being treated, when their presence in a room, that being African or Black is very dominant to them. So they're coming and saying, I'm born here in Canada, I'm Canadian, and where my ancestry is, where my education is coming from, it's coming from a cross reference of everything coming from Africa to Canada to the West Indies, the Caribbean, Brazil, South America, everywhere. They know that everything starts from Africa. So that's where they're trying to link everything. So they're not identifying with Black, African, Caribbean. They're Canadians making roots, and they're part of their education and bringing it to the rest of the society, the rest of the world. This is who I am. You can see who I am, but look here, know what I can bring to you.
That's
Beautiful.
right.
Awesome.
So I would say sorry.
I just wanted to respond. I think that again speaks to this sort of evolution that we're part of. We're part of this canon because now the young people can say that, and they can demand to be acknowledged as Canadian, because like 30 years ago we had to demand to identify ourselves as African and as Black. Now that I feel like that's it's evidence of this evolution that is that's in motion.
Yes, and I just to end, I would say what it speaks to is claiming space.
Yep.
Right. So yes, as foundational people, we had to claim space, and so it was necessary for us to state whether as I said, my politics are of African descent, or whether you choose to say I'm a Black artist. That is fine.
I'm Black and I'm proud, and I'm saying it loud.
That's right. And so you claim in that position, right? And so our children, and some of them, their children's children, will, if they choose to say I'm Canadian, we are claiming space. So the importance of claiming space in society through the arts. So I thank you, ladies. I thank you very much for this wonderful dialogue, this wonderful conversation. Continue to be healthy, continue to be safe, and continue to be working within your medium, within your discipline. So I thank you. Thank you for having me as your moderator. And thank you, 100 ABC.
Thank you as well. Thank you.
Look how far you have come on your own, but never alone. Through the rain and through the shine,